I won't necessarily tell anyone to look for masterminds or coaches where at the same level where you are, because that's not helping you get further. So you always want to level yourself up. So look for those networks, those masterminds, those, I don't even know what they're called anymore, networking groups that are made up of people that have been there, done that, and are where you want to be. And then just kind of chip away at what they did and what they're offering to you from a mentoring, advice, coaching perspective, to really kind of then start building your own business. So I would say in those areas is where I put the biggest investment.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. Before Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7 and 8 figure career coaching businesses myself and consulted with 2 career coaching businesses that are now doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or just building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regin, and today's guest is Bernadette Boas. She's an executive coach, a leadership fire starter, and the founder of Bowl of Fire Coaching. After 25 years in corporate and a big sleep wake-up call, she spent the last 16 years helping leaders ditch burnout, own their impact, and ignite real transformation. It's my pleasure to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Bernadette.
Thank you, Regina. Nice to be here.
It's always nice for me, especially like I talked to you before we started this, is I generally really enjoy talking with coaches who have been on the industry for many, many years. So tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to start your coaching business and become a coach.
I'm not sure if that makes me feel very aged, but what provoked it initially was, like you mentioned in the intro, in 2008, I was fired by my mentor of 12 years from my C-level corporate job, and I really didn't understand why. And so I went off immediately to kind of start doing some digging, like what I call excavation of my soul, to really understand why would someone like myself, who was considered a revenue generator and a massive producer, why would I have been fired? And I learned over a period of time, when I really took a hard look in the mirror, that I wasn't the type of leader that any company wanted at the helm of their organization, and I needed to do some work on myself. So I immediately did and found some other coaches, and through that process, I recognized that I had a lot to share and to give back as far as the do's and the don'ts of leadership. And therefore, I just decided to start a coaching/consulting business at the time and really help other businesses. At the time, it was for entrepreneurs only, and decided to help those entrepreneurs really start and grow a business, not specifically around coaching, but any business, but do it in the right way as a leader or as a CEO of a company, no matter how big or how small. Well, that also led me into wanting to share my lessons learned as I was going and to write a book about it, which I then proceeded to focus on over those next couple of years. But my initial reasoning for starting my own business was I needed a job and I didn't want to go back to corporate. And I wanted to leverage all the expertise that I had for those 25 years, while at the same time incorporating what I was learning through the process of self-discovery.
Just for me to clearly understand, did you, like, once you left corporate, did you start receiving leadership coaching for yourself?
I started more personal self-discovery. So I was a journalist. So I would journal every day since I was probably about 10. And so I started to really dig deep and ask myself some hard questions on my own, and really kind of do it very bluntly, very honestly, very purely. And that's what initially first helped me to recognize where my weaknesses were, where my strengths were, what blind spots I had, and what caused me to be let go of a 25-year career. And then that did lead me to finding experts like other coaches to really help me then start that business and grow it.
I see. So when it comes to the actual coaches, they were not coaches about leadership, they were coaches about actually building your coaching business. So business coaches, you would say.
I had a variety. So I happened to engage a woman from a marketing perspective initially. And she actually, without even her recognizing it, but she transformed into more of a personal coach than a marketing coach. We did work on a lot of the marketing because as a small business, when you're just starting out, you're trying to position yourself appropriately in the marketplace, identify who your target market is, all of those lovely things. But she also recognized this pain I was going through as a result of losing my career. And she started really engaging me and asking me a lot of questions, helping me to dig deep when I was really uncomfortable doing it. So she kind of played a dual role, and it went on for a good number of years because I recognized the huge value of having someone like that in my corner. Because as anybody knows who starts a business, it's hard, but it's also very scary. And it really just, it brings up all the fears and insecurities and doubts and negativities that we have about whether or not we could be successful. So her name is Joan. She played a critical role in that dual, capacity of marketing and personal development support.
That is so interesting. So initially started with marketing and then shifted to more of like personal coaching. So how does the journey look like from the moment you actually started the coaching business to where you are at today?
Initially, the first several years, I would say, was just learning, failing, learning, failing, eventually growing. But what it did actually look like was the first couple of years between 2008 and roughly 2010, I left corporate really having a consulting competency. I was an excellent consultant for the company that I worked for and the multiple companies I worked for throughout my career. So I kind of left corporate and I established this brand, as we all have to when we start a business. I established this brand that was very aligned to who I was in corporate. And even my business, I wanted it to sound big and formal and polished like corporate. So I named it the Boas Group, being that my last name is Boas, and I wanted to reflect like this big conglomerate. Well, for the first couple of years, I didn't feel congruent to it. I didn't feel like it was me. So I really struggled the first few years selling myself and positioning my business. And then I would say it was roughly around 2010, I was asked to speak to a large audience from a coworker of mine. And she was going to be introducing me to this room of several hundred people. And she had my resume, which was very formal, very, your CV, almost like your resume. And she looked at it and she crumpled it up and she put it through its side. And she said, all you need to know about this woman is that she's a ball of fire. That's all you need to know about her. And every hair on my body just stood up. And you being a marketer yourself in aspects of your business, and for anyone out there who has started a business looking for their brand, looking for their niche, they know how critical it is to find that essence. And so this was back in 2010. So I immediately ran to my table after my speech and I went on GoDaddy And I'm like, okay, eating up all the ball of fire coaching, ball of fire consulting, ball of fire media, because that was exactly who I was. And then all of a sudden, everything started kind of working. But the dilemma was I still was struggling with who my target market should be, who my target client should be. And again, as you probably know, we all go for everyone. Everyone can use my services. Everyone can benefit from what it is that I have and what it is that I do. But yet you can't serve everyone. You don't have enough money, enough time, enough resources. And therefore, you have to get very specific. And so after I wrote my book and I published it, and we can go back to that later, I realized my book is all about corporate. And yet I was serving entrepreneurs. And so people kept saying to me, why aren't you giving all of your skill and talent and knowledge to the corporate world? Because that's where you kind of thrive and where you've learned the greatest lessons, so forth and so on. And so once I even identified that, it was scary to let go of this business that I built and the parts of the business that I built. At the same time, once I did, my business just took off.
And
And it has been that way since.
and currently, you'd say that your target audience is still the same.
Yes, my target audience is corporate professionals, and I have kind of three areas of that. I have high potential professionals who are looking to advance in their career and they just need to level up and enhance their leadership in order to advance. I have those that have teams and the team dynamic needs to be worked on so they can build a culture within the team and within the business that is going to be high functioning and high productive and high value. And then I also, because of my personal experience of why I was fired and what that meant to my career and my leadership, I also work with anyone who is struggling as a leader. Maybe they've been deemed a bully boss. Maybe they've been deemed difficult to work with. Maybe they've been deemed to really just never effectively moved from being a doobie to being a leader. And so my specialty is in those three areas.
And do you find that there's a specific industry that you're usually going after, or is not industry specific?
It's not industry specific because you have high potentials everywhere, right? You have teams everywhere and you have struggling, leaders everywhere. However, there are a few that I don't target necessarily. And that's like healthcare, pharmaceutical areas, medicine type of areas. I find that to be its own unique, animal of which really also requires a certain specialty and a certain degree of focus. But other than that, I've worked in retail, manufacturing, professional services, technology, numerous industries.
Thank you for that. And yeah, actually, we did have a couple of coaches that do work in healthcare. So I do understand your point, and they are also kind of like very specific to what
Yes.
they're helping with in the healthcare industry. So
Right.
yeah, where do you find your clients right now? What is the marketing channel that is actually working very well for you?
At this point in my length of my business, I would say a good 90% of it comes from referrals. So someone talks to someone within the same organization or across organizations, across industries, through their network. And, they overhear of a situation that, a peer might be having with an employee or a team, and they refer me. At the same time, I have a lot of exposure through my own podcast, through my own online presence, to where they find me through LinkedIn or through one of the social media platforms where they see my reels and my podcast episodes. Then they come to me directly. I don't do a lot of outsource or out prospecting right now. There's always a time you need to, but at the same time, I never take it for granted that I'll get referrals or someone will find me through my podcast. So I always have feelers out. And it's just a matter of how big or small I want my business, or how full I want my roster, or how full I want my calendar.
And
So yes, and that's what you need to understand really from the get-go of a business, is really map all of that out. What is it you are wanting? What is it you don't want? Who do you want to work with? Who do you not want to work with? And who best would serve from your expertise or your product, and really just get very focused and determined there. So you don't kill yourself trying to be something for everybody, because you're not. I'll just tell you that right now. You're not.
yeah, do you have any goals you're working towards for the next 1 to 3 years with your coaching business? Where is it going right now?
Yes, there are a couple things. One is as a result of my first book. So I mentioned it a couple times, so let me mention it. So my experience that I was sharing before, the real lesson that I learned is that I was really a nasty leader. And you might look at me as a tyrant. You might have looked at me as a corporate bitch, whatever those terms are, bully boss. And therefore, I wrote a book about shedding the corporate bitch. So that's what it's called, shedding the corporate bitch. And in that, and through that process of, I would say, 4 or 5 years, I then identified a transformation method that I now coach on, and I now leverage in all the work that I do. And I call it my shift to riches model. And that means that it's 5 parts. You discover, confront, and shed the fears, negativities, and anxieties that you have that are causing you to lash out on the world, so you can create and accelerate what it is that you really want. So based on all the work that I've done and the experiences that I've had, people have always asked me, give me the details of that. Like, give me the formula and share with me exactly the steps I can do to do what you did and to make the transformation that you made. Because I've had people from my past run into me going, how are you the same person? Don't even look like the same person. You know, that scowl on your face is no longer there. So I am in the process of writing that book. The temporary title is Shift to Riches, but that's just a temporary title. So that's one goal. The second goal is to really just continue to support the clients that I have and will have, to really, because a number of them, a good number of them, are really at a trajectory in their career that they're just going to take off and achieve what it is that they've been working on for so long. And it's exciting. And it's just so rewarding, not only to them, but quite honestly to me, because I just get so much joy out of watching their growth. And I really, over the next few years, I'll take on new clients and start the process with them. But I just am focused on really being the best conduit to people's successes as I can be.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And when it comes to your book, you said the title will change. But right now, you said, was it, or temporary now is Shift to Riches?
Yes.
The one that's
Yes.
coming up. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
So a kind of a tagline that comes from my first book is shifting from bitch to rich in business and life. And so the formula helps you to really acknowledge your insecurities and negativities and fears, things that are really causing you to kind of lash out on yourself and on others, in order to shed them and create and accelerate your goals. So yes, so somewhere in there is the title for the next book.
So it's not just for executives.
It will not be just for executives. It will be anybody who wants to transform because they're unhappy with, where they are in life with themselves. However, I will, based on my own personal experiences, I will certainly be sharing a lot of personal and client success stories of how they too have kind of leveraged, if not the exact formula, parts of the formula in order for them to achieve the riches that they wanted in their lives.
Well, is there like a timeline that you're thinking about it?
Okay, Regine, you're putting me on the spot. No, I'm kidding. I have right now April of 2026, when it would be available.
Cool. Yeah. The reason why I was asking for that is just to know if when the podcast goes out, will that be out too?
That's okay. No, that's okay. And that's okay. I like when someone kind of challenged me on my goals. That's what accountability is all about. Because it just lights a fire in me.
Yeah, and wanted to ask you about investments. And always in this podcast, I try to ask different guests that we get on the show of smart investments that actually have helped grow their coaching business. Has there been any investment like that you'd like to share? Maybe like it could be a coaching program, it could be a mastermind, it could be communities, it could be I don't know, investments in, I don't know, agencies, I don't know, whatever it was that actually helped you grow your business, that you feel like you got value from it. I'd like to know about that.
I would say, well, one, I want to throw out a caution to those starting a business is to definitely be very, very careful where you make your investments. Be very, very careful and ensure that you're not responding to the urgency that people will put on whatever stage you're at in your development of your business. Just be careful of where you put your money, because what you think you need to spend on right now, you don't. And what will happen is you'll waste it, and then you need to spend and invest again when you're in the right spot. So that said, I would say, first off, the investment in my coaches was significant. If I did not have Joan in my life for those, I would say those initial 4 or 5 years, then I would have struggled even more so than I did. So if you need a business coach, a personal coach, whatever type of coach that you need to keep you motivated, keep you accountable, keep you targeted and focused on your goals and objectives, it's worth the investment. The other thing is too, I was looking at actually my history of investments that I had made. I also invested in assistants. It took me a while, not too long, fortunately, being that I was a C-level executive in corporate. I understood having people around me to do the work. It was probably the biggest struggle I had is when I did go out on my own, I didn't have anybody. And I was like, wait, where are all those people that used to, support, helping me? And so even though I was very early on in my business, I also started to spend money in places that would take workload off of me and put it elsewhere so I could focus on the core things, and that was to make money. And so I would also say investing in, resources around you. Now, when it comes to like a mastermind or a coaching program, I didn't spend money on a mastermind. What I did was I created a mastermind on my own. And it was made up of, at the time, even though I was targeting entrepreneurs, I was including both corporate and entrepreneur executives in this mastermind. And that networking in itself, those relationships in itself, has carried me to this day as a result of that network. And so if you do have an opportunity to invest in one, create one, whatever the case might be, that's a great area to invest in. And you want to be sure that they are people that I won't necessarily tell anyone to look for masterminds or coaches where at the same level where you are, because that's not helping you get further. So you always want to level yourself up. So look for those networks, those masterminds, those, I don't even know what they're called anymore, networking groups that are made up of people that have been there, done that, and are where you want to be. And then just kind of chip away at what they did and what they're offering to you from a mentoring, advice, coaching perspective, to really kind of then start building your own business. So I would say in those areas is where I put the biggest investment. And then, of course, there was marketing experts I hired. There was website technology investments I made. And they're all good, but quite honestly, and I know you're in marketing, but quite honestly, they are like the book cover that draws people to your business. But you really also want to be sure that the investment is put into creating and generating the business.
I totally agree with that. Even from a marketing perspective, marketing is to get people through the door, but actually they have to walk with you for the rest of it. So yeah,
Right.
I absolutely agree with that. What would you say is right now the biggest challenge you're facing in scaling your coaching business?
Well, this is going to be kind of based on the times that we're in. So I would say that right now, a good many corporations, now I'm talking corporations, since that's where I work, are being faced with some very hard decisions to be made because of the increase in costs it's taking to run their business. And that could be, the tariffs, and therefore, as a result of those, the rising cost of products and services in order for them to operate their business. So once that starts happening, hard decisions are made internally around things like learning and development, around things like coaching and training, and therefore the span of opportunities is shrinking. Now, granted, people will say, well, we always need executive coaches, we always need trainers, we have to skill up our people. Absolutely true. And I hope that they keep that mindset, because in trying times like we're in, you can't walk away from providing support and guidance to the people that are, running, managing through change. However, like marketing in a lot of organizations, it's kind of the first place they start kind of chipping away at the investments that they're making. And so I would say that's one of the biggest challenges that I'll be facing, I would say, over the next year or two. Now, again, based on my background, based on my roster currently, based on the companies that I work with, I'm feeling confident about it. But you just always want to stay on top of those things and have the conversations with the right people to ensure that you are very well aware of where they're at, where your customers are at, and what might be coming down the pipeline as far as accelerating business or pulling back. And therefore, you have to go and find other resources, other channels of making money.
So generally, you're saying that a lot of these businesses budgets are getting smaller, and they'll be like eventually more wary of where their investments are going in. So
They're just having to make hard decisions. It's not as if they're cutting them just yet, but they're having to, go back to the drawing board and make some hard decisions about where they're making investments. And I'm confident that those companies that recognize that through change, they need to level up their skill set of their people. They need to provide support to the leaders of the company through executive coaching and training. They need those things. However, they need to make some decisions in order to also ensure that they come out on the other side in a really good position.
thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. Is there any final advice you'd like to give to other executive coaches who are looking to scale their impact?
Yes, I would say, apart from some of the tactical things we talked about, know your client, know the market you want to be in, so forth and so on. Starting, managing, and growing your business really requires you having a very deep, strong belief system in yourself. And you, therefore, really understand your worth and your value. And depending upon how you are packaging your programs and your products and services that you're offering, know your value and worth. Don't diminish it. Don't get desperate about it. Don't start cutting because you think, okay, they're saying no because of your price point. There's a lot of reasons people say no. Believe in your worth, and it will, pay out and be worth it in the long run. Just don't compromise and don't get desperate and sell yourself short. I would say that. And then the second thing I want to also just say is work it until you recognize that you absolutely love what you are doing. I absolutely love what I do. And, they say that once you find, work that you love, you never work a day in your life. I absolutely love what I do. I love the clients that I have. I love the work, the type of work and the different services I offer. And therefore, I really don't ever not look forward to getting up in the morning, and unless I'm going to the beach. But other than that, I never not look forward to getting up in the morning and engaging with my team as well as with my clients.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That is amazing advice. And yeah, I totally agree with like knowing your worth, and like focusing on a niche that you're passionate about. That is all the foundation of actually building a successful business starts there. For anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can find you on your LinkedIn at Bernadette Boas. And I feel like there's also the website balloffirecoaching.com. Is there any other way we could connect with you if you wanted to?
They could also check me out on my podcast, Shedding the Corporate Bitch. You can find it anywhere on your podcast streaming services and on our YouTube channel.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come into our podcast today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to 7 and 8 figures without burning out. To learn more about Purple Circle, our community, and how we can help you grow your business, visit joinpurplecircle.com.